Welcome back to the Reading Corner with Mrs. G. For more great stories, subscribe here and give me a thumbs up for like it. And if you like Franklin the Turtle, we have a few of those stories in the Reading Corner with Mrs. G. Today we're going to do Franklin and the Big Kid. We also have Franklin Goes to School, Franklin's Class Trip, and Franklin's School Play. So check back for more. Today, Franklin and the Big Kid. Let's see what happens as Franklin tries to be like the Big Kid. Franklin could count by twos and tie his shoes. He could slip and slide down the riverbank and swing all the way across the monkey bars. But some days, Franklin wished he could do more. Some days, Franklin wished he could do the things the big kids did. One morning, Franklin looked at himself in the mirror. "Have I grown since yesterday?" he asked his mother. "Maybe just a little bit," she replied. Franklin smiled and put on his cap. "Your cap is on backwards," his mother said. "I know," said Franklin. "This is how Jack Rabbit wears his cap. All the big kids do." Franklin met Bear at the treehouse to play pirates. "Someone's coming, Captain," whispered Franklin as he peered through the telescope. "Friend or foe, matey?" asked Bear. Franklin looked again. "It's Jack Rabbit!" he exclaimed. Franklin scrambled down to the ground. "Hi, Jack," said Franklin. "What are you doing?" "Just hanging around," replied Jack. "What are you doing?" "I'm just hanging around too," Franklin answered. "If you want, you can come to the park later and watch me skateboard," said Jack. "Wow, thanks," said Franklin. Franklin said goodbye to Bear and hurried home for lunch. "I'm meeting Jack Rabbit at the park," he told his parents. He pulled on a soccer jersey. "Are you playing a game?" asked his father. Franklin shook his head. "Jack always wears a jersey, and I want to be just like Jack." Franklin rode his bike to the park. All afternoon, he watched Jack and his friends do tricks on their skateboards. "Want to try, Franklin?" asked Jack. "Sure!" exclaimed Franklin. He stepped eagerly onto the board. He pushed off and stayed on for 10 whole seconds. "Wow," said Jack. "You're almost as good as me." Franklin grinned. That night, Franklin asked his parents for a skateboard. "You just got a new bike," said his father. "Bikes are for little kids," replied Franklin. "Skateboards are dangerous," his mother pointed out. "But I'm good at skateboarding," answered Franklin. "Jack said so." "Maybe when you're bigger," said his father. "I'm big enough," muttered Franklin. The next morning, Bear called on Franklin. "Do you want to play pirates?" he asked. "Not today," Franklin replied. "I'm going to hang around with Jack. Do you want to come?" "No, thanks," Bear answered. "I'd rather play pirates." After Bear left, Franklin hurried over to Jack's house. "Do you want a skateboard?" Franklin asked. "I can't," answered Jack. "I have to do my paper route." Franklin offered to help. "It isn't easy," said Jack. "I've got lots of papers to deliver and loads of flyers." "I don't mind," Franklin replied. "I'm not a little kid, you know." It took 2 hours for Jack and Franklin to sort the papers and insert all the flyers. This is a lot of work, said Franklin. It sure is, agreed Jack, but I make lots of money. That gave Franklin an idea. Maybe he could get his own paper route and buy a skateboard. Franklin and Jack took turns lugging the wagon along the streets and tossing the papers at everyone's door. They had to go back to Jack's house 4 times to load up. On the second trip, Franklin's tummy began to growl. "Can we get something to eat?" he asked. Jack shook his head. "I have to deliver everything by 1 o'clock, he replied. On the third trip, the wind started to blow. Franklin ran after the flyaway papers. On the fourth trip, it started to rain. Franklin got soaked. "It's a good thing you make lots of money," he said to Jack. "Think of all the neat stuff you can buy." But Jack explained that he was saving most of his money for college. Franklin was grumpy and wet, tired and hungry when all the papers were finally delivered. Then he had an idea and cheered up. "Do you want a skateboard?" he asked. "Sorry, Franklin," said Jack. "I've got schoolwork to do." Jack thanked Franklin and gave him $2 for helping. "Thanks, Jack. See you later," called Franklin. On the way home, Franklin thought about his $2. He thought about how many papers he would have to deliver before he could buy a skateboard. Then, as Franklin passed the candy store, he thought a little more. Maybe I'm not big enough for a paper route and a skateboard, he decided. After lunch, Franklin ran to the treehouse. "I brought treasure, Captain," he called to Bear. He held up a bag full of candy. "Permission to come aboard," Bear answered. And Franklin turned his cap the right way around and climbed into the pirate ship. So Franklin discovered that it was better just to be himself and enjoy being a little kid. Yeah, enjoy being a kid while you can. All right, see you next time in the Reading Corner with Mrs. G.